This episode of Dispatches from Planet Albany is brought to you with support by New York State United Teachers, which represents more than 600,000 educators and school-related professionals in New York. Dispatches is also supported by the public affairs firm O'Donnell & Associates. For more information, check out o'donnellsolutions.com.
This episode is also brought to you by Citizens for Affordable Rates. New York's car insurance costs are nearly double the national average, and state lawmakers must take action to make driving more affordable. Learn more at citizensforaffordablerate.com.
It's 2026. It's time to digitize some of these inmate records. And if we're going to spend $35 million to digitize their health records, then for the love of God, let's digitize their legal email. Let's make
Point of order. Incarcerated individuals. That's the law.
Is that cutting into my time, Chair? Is that the... All right, thank you.
Okay. Point of order.
So,
thank you.
I'm going to continue. Thank you.
No, some online thing.
If you give me 4 minutes, I'll use incarcerated individual.
No, we're not negotiating
that. All right, we're on my time.
Okay.
Assemblyman, thank you.
I've also declared war on potholes, so here's the first shot across the bow.
Well, as you know, with Planet Albany, there's always something that makes the planet turn.
And it's this amazing view of D.C., and Eddie Vedder comes out. And he goes, "You have a cigarette?" And I've never smoked in my life, but if I had, I wish that was the moment.
And this strategy takes us from potholes to knotholes.
I would like to say it was a pleasure, Mr. Kim. But I'm on the road.
I'm David Lombardo, and this is Dispatches from Planet Albany, a podcast about power and politics in New York State government. And this episode is a grab bag, including some excerpts from Capitol Pressroom conversations that you might have missed. But up first is a Dispatches exclusive, Siena Research Institute pollster Steve Greenberg addressing their March poll, and specifically the decision to get voter reactions to anonymous quotes that were actually provided by Governor Kathy Hochul and Nassau County Executive Bruce Blakeman, an experiment that struck me as odd and definitely could have been better executed. We also explored whether the GOP candidate for governor is doing himself any favors with his position on ICE agent activities, given some new polling from the Siena Research Institute. So, Steve, the Siena Research poll that came out in early March had 6 questions where you offered up sort of generic quotes from Governor Kathy Hochul and Nassau County Executive Bruce Blakeman, but didn't tell the people taking the survey which of the gubernatorial candidates the lines came from, only that it was from a quote-unquote state leader. What were you hoping to accomplish with this experiment?
We live in the modern political world in such political silos. People get their information from sources that they know confirm what they believe. And people get painted with political labels so easily that what we really wanted to do was see if we don't tell them who said this, would Republicans like something that Hochul said? Would Democrats like something that Blakeman said? In hindsight, what would have been better had we done this with a split sample and done it exactly the way we did it in the survey for half the sample, but for the other half of the sample to say, Governor Kathy Hochul says XYZ. Do you mostly agree or disagree? Nassau County Executive Blakeman says blah, blah, blah. Do you agree or disagree? And then we would have been able to compare and see if there was a difference based on whether people knew or not. But I think it's fair to say, based on the results that we see, that when you get between 68 and 90% of Republicans agreeing with 3 statements from Hochul, when you get between 67 and 87% of Democrats agreeing with 3 statements by Bruce Blakeman, I think it tells you that there's definitely something to the notion that if people don't know where the quote comes from, they're more likely to give it an honest listen.
Yeah, I think that's fair, that everyone interprets what they're hearing through the lens of maybe how they feel about that candidate. And from that perspective, I think this clearly is a good reminder of that when you hear what someone has to say, maybe you like it and the messenger matters. But
right, you could be the most, anti-MAGA person and still agree with something that the president says. You can be the most anti-Hochul person and still agree with something that the governor says. Not everything she says has to be 180 degrees from what you believe.
So one of the things that I had an issue with on this point is that you're not talking about their specific positions, but you're talking about their quotes. And you could describe something in flowery, very positive terms, and I think that's generally going to be received maybe better than what an actual underlying policy might be. So what do you think about...
Point.
Oh, then I'm done with my question. Perfect.
No, that is a fair point, and we will certainly get to that in the campaign as we move more into the campaign. And the Blakeman campaign puts out various proposals. The Hochul campaign puts out various proposals. We'll test them and see whether voters like one or the other better or not. But at this point, it's so early in the campaign. It's not like either candidate has strong campaign proposals out there. Right now, the governor's debating a budget. The county executive's getting ready to give his state of the county address next week. So let's, when we get more into the actual campaign, then we'll certainly take a look at the specific proposals.
How did you choose the quotes that you did ask about?
Well, we went through it and did some research and looked up quotes that the voter wouldn't necessarily know by hearing the quote who it came from.
So they didn't say, as the first mom governor, I think
right.
this.
We didn't want as the first mom governor, and we didn't want a Blakeman quote talking about, the worst governor in America.
Eskimo brother of Paul McCartney, that kind of thing.
Exactly. So, no, what we tried to do was find quotes that any New Yorker could agree or disagree with, regardless of who said it. And we were careful to go through, and we made sure if anyone wants to know where any of those 6 quotes came from, I can give you the exact citations. So we made sure, and neither side called us on it for using a quote inappropriately. So that's good.
How often do you hear from campaigns and politicians, and have you heard from either side in this gubernatorial race yet?
Haven't heard any real complaints. Not this poll, but the previous one, the January poll that came out like at the very beginning of February. I know that the county executive Blakeman, when it came out, said that he thought it was good news because in every race that he had won, Siena had him losing.
How often have you polled county executive races on Long Island?
We have never polled a race that county executive Blakeman won. We did poll his losing campaign for Congress prior to becoming county executive, and we did poll when he at one point was running for the Republican nomination for, I think, U.S. Senate.
That happened
several years ago, and we did poll then. But we did not poll either of his campaigns for Nassau County Executive.
So I guess it would be fair for him to say you've never gotten any of his county executive races right.
That would absolutely be true. And I would say we have never gotten them wrong either.
Well, if you're going to push back like that. So sticking with the county executive, one of the things that I was interested in with this poll was some of the questions you asked about attitudes with regards to ICE and how it's doing its job. And I was looking at that number for how independent voters felt about this, because clearly there's some polarization there as it pertains to Democrats and Republicans, because ICE is an extension of the federal government, all GOP controlled. You found that independents, 59%, think ICE has gone too far in some of their actions, yet despite that, as Bruce Blakeman is running for governor, needs to get every single independent vote, basically, and peel off some Democrats. He has not really condemned ICE and has essentially condoned their activities. You're a statewide political strategist in your previous life, and now you're looking at the numbers. Is that a winning strategy, you think?
In isolation, absolutely not. The question is how he integrates that within the overall, message of his campaign. Look, right now he's got a more basic problem than worrying about what, New Yorkers think about one proposal of his or another, or one thing he said or the other. He's got to worry about the fact that right now, 61% of New Yorkers, 3 out of every 5 New York voters, has either never heard of Bruce Blakeman or doesn't know enough about him to have an opinion about him.
Well, doesn't that speak to this issue, though? Because people don't know him. If this is the one thing they learn about him, that he is, yep, you guys did a pretty good job in Minnesota, then that's a real problem for him if that's the message that makes it to the voters.
And as I say, that, if in isolation, that is a real issue. The question is what voters learn about him. They're not just learning that one little factoid that
Sure.
He said everything in Minnesota went well. They're learning other things about him. So how does all of that play into it? I mean, I think the overriding concern for Blakeman right now is, yes, developing a message that will solidify Republicans, win you the lion's share of independents, and cut off some Democrats, because that's what a Republican needs to do to win in New York. It's what George Pataki won 3 times, and no Republican's been successful since then doing that. He needs a message, but he also needs to get known to voters and give voters a reason why they should support him. He's been the Nassau County executive now for 5 years. He's got a record, good or bad. But he can certainly be talking about the good things that he's done, and start getting voters to understand, who he is and what he wants to do as governor.
Do you think he should come on the Capitol Pressroom and help to deliver his message?
I think any candidate of any serious value should come on to the Capitol Pressroom regularly.
Print it, put it on a T-shirt. We've been speaking with Steve Greenberg of the Siena Research Institute. Steve, thank you so much for making the time.
My pleasure, David. Talk soon.
Some challenges need someone who simply won't quit. Modern advocacy brings tenacity, strategy, and unwavering follow-through to every client it serves. Learn more at modernadvocacyllc.com. And now we're going to share an exchange during a recent Capitol Pressroom interview that didn't make the radio with Assemblymember Andrew Hevesy, a Queens Democrat. The delivery of your answers have been rapid fire, and I'm curious if this is a hallmark of the way you always talk, or whether this is a product of doing these hearings with Assemblymember Pretlow as the new Ways and Means Chair, who has exercised a real hammer when it comes to that buzzer going off and cutting people off. Has he coached you up more on this, or is this something you always had?
Well, so I've been looking to Gary Pretlow as a mentor for about 20 years. I love Gary. He's actually the reason I have my physical seat on the floor in the Assembly chamber. He gave it to me, so I love Gary. No, he's not been teaching me that.
You're not scarred? This isn't like I'm worried about getting cut off?
No, actually, so they appointed me, it's strange. So I've been in the legislature for 20 years, right?
Sure.
They just appointed me to Ways and Means because I wasn't desperate to get on it. So when I went to the hearing and I said, hey, Gary, I'm Ways and Means. Can I have 5 minutes instead of my normal 3 minutes to ask questions? He smiled and laughed and told me, absolutely not, get the hell out of here. So, but I love Gary. He's doing a great job.
And now we're sharing an excerpt of a conversation with State Senator James Skoufis, an Orange County Democrat who was in the studio talking with us about live event ticketing regulations he'll be pushing before the end of session. And here is part of the interview that addresses the process of this recurring effort to regulate live event ticketing activities. Any concerns, though, about potentially striking a two-way deal only to have it undermined later down the road?
Traditionally, it has been a two-way issue because the underlying law, as you and some of your listeners may remember, the underlying law expires in June. Mm-hmm. And as much as some stakeholders, industry stakeholders, might hate some of the elements in my bill and our bill that we're talking about, they would really, really hate if the entire law, underlying law, expired. And so really the executive is compelled to sign any bill on this that comes to her desk, because by the time it does get to her desk, sure, number one, we're out of session. And number two, if she were to not sign the legislation, then the whole system blows up, which in some ways actually is more favorable to fans than even some of the ambitious reforms that we're talking about. For example, if the underlying law expired, the reselling of all tickets would be capped at, I think, $2 above face value. So literally, brokers would be put out of business for sports, for music, for everything in New York State. But nevertheless, the whole system would blow up. So this has historically been a two-way conversation, and then the governor signs whatever is sent to her.
So then I have to imagine you like having that expiration date just because it serves as a way to ensure that you can always revisit this issue and have some sort of leverage being the expiration.
It's leverage every 3 years. There's no question about it. And whenever we get to the 3-year marker and negotiations pick up, inevitably many of the stakeholders come to me and they say or they ask, well, can we do 5 years this time? Or can we just get rid of the sunset?
Why give up that power?
Exactly. And that's always an easy and a hard no. Or I should say an easy and a non-difficult and an easy way
it's a
to
firm
say
no, though,
it's a
you.
firm no. Thank you. I don't know why I was struggling with that. So nevertheless, yes, it is leverage every 3 years.
And finally, with one of the outstanding issues for budget negotiations being the fate of the CLCPA, I want to share the thoughts of Assembly members Didi Barrett and friend of the podcast John McDonald, who I asked to weigh in on the governor's nebulous push following a lengthy interview about lowering energy bills. Do you think the state, as the governor has been making the case recently, should repeal all or some of the 2019 Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act, which the governor says is going to contribute to thousands of dollars in additional costs in the coming years?
First of all, we have to really see what's being proposed. Nothing's been proposed to us as of 3:30.
We've seen nothing. Other than the press asking about it, we've seen nothing.
I'll plead Sergeant Schultz from Hogan's Heroes. I've seen nothing.
Well, one proposal in the past that the governor floated out there and then abandoned was changing the methane calculations moving forward, making it more akin to what other cap and spend programs have identified. And my guess is that's what she's going to push again this time in order to scale back the state's cap and invest program.
How many other states have that provision?
It's a moving target.
I think it's zero.
Washington.
Oh, maybe Washington.
Yeah.
And then they found out it was incredibly expensive. I think they may have.
Well, how many other industrialized countries have it?
So given that past experience, are you guys open to the idea of changing the CLCPA
I think if we
law?
can do anything that's going to blunt the negative impact of adding more financial costs on families, we need to take a look at it.
And do you agree with the narrative that we're seeing from the governor that it would potentially increase costs?
I would like to just sort of shift the conversation to say,
I know,
what
but
we're here,
but
no, it's about this. But
sure.
what I'm saying, what I want to say is that I think what we're seeing is that a commitment to the goals, but not necessarily the timeline.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So I think there's that, that if we're going to look at something, that makes more sense. I mean, we're hearing it every day about the electric school buses. We're hearing a lot of, other where the rubber meets the road in our communities. It's the timetable. It's not necessarily the goals.
Right. It's interesting. Well, you're going to support rolling back CLP. No one's talking about rolling back to CLCPA. Maybe we're going to be looking at a course adjustment. Maybe that's what we're looking at. The reality is, and I say this all the time to advocates, what's your goal? Well, no, we want to get this. I said, well, is that going to accomplish your goal? That's not what we care about. We want to make sure we get this. Well, the reality is advocacy is great, and I respect the people who come out and give 110%. Our job is to make sure that whatever the goal is can actually be implemented where no one is hurt.
So just to be clear, though, do we think the current timelines in the law and things like the methane emission calculations are going to drive up costs?
Well, this is the interesting thing about NYSERDA. Up until last week when that memo came out, any group that was supporting CLCPA were like dropping at any moment on what Doreen was going to say next because they believed so much in it. Now all of a sudden a memo comes out that they don't like, and it's like, stop the presses. This is ridiculous. So I think we reserve the right to get smarter on the issue and to see exactly what the governor is going to propose and have that discussion. I think it'll be vigorous.